Hi, it's Naomi here. Welcome back to part 2 of our time-lapse video on Lake Joondalup. So now we're at the mid-blocking stage of the painting and how we're going to sort of like develop along with refining the paper and the shapes and creating more and more detail till we end up getting to a finished painting. So here I'm working on starting to put in more shadows, more subtleties in the water and the colour that is developing with the shadows and the effects. So moving over to the other side, there's a lot of lilac and pink in the water that I'm trying to reflect there that I've been working on, and I'm starting to build up some sort of brighter blues, stronger reflections in the watercolour as well. Now here I've started to actually apply some paint to the trees in the background and into the water shapes to start to build some depth. There's a lot of dark sort of browns and murky tones in the water that give it a lot of shadow and shape and form. So this is what I'm starting to develop in the picture now with my paint over the paper. So I'm working on one side and I'm building up the form of the trees and the shadows and the rock there as we're moving through. And you can see here in a wider shot I'm really putting in a lot more darks with a lot of strong shadows and lifts on the rock and on the tree, and I'm building in some more detail on that far tree on the end of the painting, building up detail, and then moving on to the next section, working on the reflections from the trees and how they're reflecting into the actual water, moving across to the next one. And as you create more form with the trees, I'm creating the form and the modelling with the paint now. The paper gave me my baseline start, and now the paint is helping to refine this more as I move through. As you can see, I'm putting darks onto this trunk and the shadows and the shapes moving across to the other side of the painting. There's a lot of shadow and reflections on this side of the picture and working through that. And as you see, I'm working across the whole thing, starting to put in sort of some ochre colours, finer brushes now, a bit more detail. Looks very quick, but it actually takes a long time. And as I'm looking more and more at my reference photo and adjusting the tones and the patterns as I go along, and the painting slowly starts to take more life and shape and depth and form, and trying to catch the light and shade of the reflections in the water, and working on some light green reflected areas over here. Now I've got to the stage where I want to build up the reeds that are actually sitting in the lake quite strongly. So I've actually decided to use the paper and mould them and glue them on over the paint that I've been all working on the paint. So I've let that paint dry, and now I'm gluing down all the reeds that I want to be quite strong and focused in the foreground. And they're quite thick and 3D, so they have a very strong 3D texture about them. More than just actual paint alone. So I'm building them up. So we're starting to see how it looks. Now in this last bit here, I'm actually starting to paint in all the little bags that are holding the saplings that are planted in the water's edge as part of a regeneration project that Lake Joondalup is undergoing. So all in these little plastic bags here, they've got little tree seedlings that are hopefully going to grow up and look beautiful. So here now I'm building my little seedling bags into the painting, working with paint on top of what I've done so far. And giving them form and modelling and shaping them up to try and look like the bags, and to have a bit of a translucent look, and also to build up the reflections actually in the water as well. And then I'm putting in the little support sticks that hold the bags apart and protect the trees as they're floating in the water. I really loved this part of the painting, that I have all these beautiful little tree saplings. And here's a final shot of that stage that we're at, where you can see the painting now looking more finished with the bags. So thank you for watching this next section. Hope that you've liked that so far, and we've got one more to go to get to the final finishing touches of the painting. So hopefully you'll watch the next one. Thank you very much.